Okay. So, good evening, all of you, and thank you all of you for joining us. Before we officially begin today's conversation, I just wanted to take this chance and wish Sir happy at 75th birthday. So, wishing you many happy returns of the day, sir, and hope you have a great day. And thank you for joining us on your birthday and sharing some time with us. Uh, I'm going to request Debashish Basu sir to introduce, but before that, there are a couple of ground rules that I would like to share with you. We've kept all of you on mute during this session. This is for the benefit of all involved and so that our concentration is entirely on the speakers. For optimal viewing, I'm going to request all of you to keep your webinar on speaker view. This entire meeting will be recorded and a copy of this will be uploaded on our YouTube channel, Money Life TV. So you can view the recordings once again. Also, during the Q&A, if you have any questions that you wish to ask us, please use the raise hand button, that is option available in the bottom of your Zoom call. Also, please feel free to use the chat section if you want to wish Sir a happy birthday, you want to ask us any questions, you want to share any comments. But it's a sincere request, please do it only in the public forum. Please do not send us private messages. We will not be able to view them. Also, I'm going to request you to keep your cameras switched off because your backgrounds are visible to us. So if you want to keep your privacy intact, then I'm going to request you to please keep your cameras switched off. Now, we have a short video that we've done for Sir. So I'm going to request my colleague to play that. And then I can request Basu Sir to take over. So can I request? Can I now request Basu sir to please introduce? Sir, over to you.
Good evening to all of you, and thank you everybody for joining us today in wishing Virendra ji a very happy birthday and many more such days to come. We thought Virendra's 75th birthday would be a happy occasion, not just to wish him, but for all of us to recall his stupendous work on behalf of investors for decades together. Now, we will all hear in detail from him very soon what he did and how he did it over these many years when he gets into a conversation or a discussion with Sucheta. My job is to quickly let you know a bit about Jain Saab, a very quiet and a very low-key shareholder activist. At a time when investor associations were weak and ineffective, his organization, Midas Touch Investors Association, played a stellar role in various path-breaking issues. He led the campaign with SEBI and Ministry of Corporate Affairs to recognize the concept of vanishing companies. And these are a large number of hundreds of companies which made public issues and then vanished, leaving shareholders with useless share certificates or demat entries. These were all products of the early liberalization, the IPO boom that happened in the 90s. I remember in 1 week there were 76 issues and all of them junk. All of them are lousy issues, and we were analyzing IPOs at that time. We were absolutely overwhelmed and we were absolutely flabbergasted how SEBI was clearing these issues. Companies with 300 square foot office somewhere in suburbs of Bombay raising money for NBFCs. This is the kind of issues that there used to be. And I was convinced that these would all vanish, and we made a lot of noise with SEBI. I personally had arguments with the then SEBI chairman, D.R. Mehta, who was all for enterprise and entrepreneurship and, allowing companies to raise money. But these all vanished. And who was left to sort of deal with the mess and slowly, for years together, keep plodding at it was Mr. Viren Jain. He was also instrumental, not many people know, in filing a PIL. He was so dogged in his pursuit of this thing that he filed a PIL in Allahabad High Court and won a favorable order to bring all such companies to book. His efforts led to the court ordering for setting up of a coordination monitoring committee to track all these vanishing companies and do something about them. Even before this, all this goes back to the 90s when he was leading, when he was in his prime and leading all this fight. And many of our younger audiences would not know this because mutual funds were a completely different kind of animal at that time. There were just about 5 or 6 private mutual funds, and many of them were public sector banks having promoted mutual funds. So not that they were any better. In fact, they're quite vile. And Viren ji had to successfully fight for CanStar in 1992 and help get the money back, which is unprecedented at that time. So to do all this, he set up Midas Touch Helpline with support from Investor Education and Protection Fund to help aggrieved investors who could call and get redress. The most important thing is that he did it all by himself, and on many occasions and for many years with his own money, except for some of these little sponsorships that he got for this helpline and things like that, but primarily with his own money, and jumped into whenever he felt investors were being taken for a ride. Most recently in the Franklin Templeton case. Now, I won't reveal everything. I won't go into his whole life history, just to give a sense of that it's been a long battle, many years, and a very well-earned 75th birthday, Virenji. And now I hand over the proceedings to Sucheta to take it over and take it forward. Thank you all. Thank you all, and thanks for coming once again.
Thank you, Devashish. Let me also start by wishing Mr. Viren Jain a very, very happy birthday. 75 years, a great milestone, especially when life is so well lived and so much of public service. We are very thankful to all the things that you've done. We started a little later, and I know how difficult it is and how frustrating it is. We've had conversations about this. So I want to sort of talk to you about the years and what you have done, especially your role as an activist, and ask you some questions. We've now known each other for 25 years. And in fact, I first read about you in the Times of India when there was a story filed from Kanpur about, your big victory in CanStar. But even before we go into CanStar, which brought you to national limelight, I want to start with some basic questions. For instance, you are a business person, and most business persons, forget about business persons, most journalists also are forever scared about taking on the regulators, going to court. CanStar is a public sector company floated by Canada Bank. So what made you, what is it that drove you? What made you set up Midas Touch Investors Association? And even before you answer that, if there's anything else that you want to say and begin, then I'm handing it over to you.
That was start at the beginning, Sucheta, what you asked. I had a bypass operation in 1992. Till then I was looking after the family business. I was the only person in the family who was looking after it. And once I went through the bypass, it was a triple bypass, done by Dr. Rehan at Delhi when the emergency conditions. When I recovered, it took me almost about 2 years, actually, to recover from that. I wanted to do something else, and I was not really mentally prepared to go into business again or restart it. So since there was no one in the family, immediate family, who would look after that. And so I decided to call it a day as far as business is concerned. The family business was concerned, which was automobile and distribution of parts, etc. And then I wanted to do something about the financial side. We had some problems. I sorted them out. And once I had sorted them out, I thought, okay, this was, you see, I'd been reading Economic Times from the day it started publication. I was in college then. And that was virtually regular. It would come to my home. And I had an interest in that. I had a lot of interest in cricket, played a lot of cricket right from school. So at one point of time, I thought, okay, let me give it a try in the financial sectors, especially the securities market. And I started studying it further more deeply. I'd done it earlier also. Then this the IPO boom, which Devashish was talking about, I started off with that in seeing DRHP and RHP of various companies. And what I discovered ultimately, I mean, after doing some of the big issues which I selected, which were going to come, that they were given huge loans by financial institutions. At that point of time, we had DFIs, Development of Financial Institutions, and the projections were fudged. So much so, they were totaling mistakes to inflate profits. I mean, as simple as that. And so on and so forth. We wrote to Finance Minister. Chidambaram was there mostly. Through an MP, of course. There was a local MP, BJP MP. He was very good that way. And whatever I would request him, he would do it. He would sign on that. He was quite assured that all this is authentic. So after 6 months, I came to the conclusion that the whole IPO thing, SEBI is perhaps hand in glove, or if not, they are overlooking all these things. Projections which are faulty, which are inflated. I mean, it was complete fraud. As we wrote to IFCI also. I mean, we wrote to the institutions also. So ultimately, I came to the conclusion. After some time, some investors came in, and they had problem in CanStar, that CanBank had stopped making payment, stopped redemptions, and they said, because they knew I would study a lot and I would know comparatively. In Kanpur, koi nahi karta tha. Unne kaha inse, bhai sahab se puchen chal ke, what does he say, what should we do? And how should we take this matter up? I said, you give me papers, I had no idea about CanStar. So at that point of time, I studied it and wrote first letter to SEBI that this is very wrong. I mean, when I was aghast when I saw their offer document and could collect, spent a few days in understanding. So it was such a clear-cut matter that CanBank was obliged to make payment whenever the investor wanted. They had made an assured payment. The scheme was in 10 years. They had come out with an IPO in 1990. This was the first IPO of a mutual fund after UTI. Of course, it was 100% government owned. At that point of time, Canara Bank, it was their mutual fund. They raised 1,000 crore in 1990 through IPO. And they said, we'll give you twice in 5 years, 10 and 4 times after 10 years, and it's a 10-year scheme, and redeemable at the same rate, any day, at the same rate of return. So there was no ifs. It was listed and traded quite, they had recent trading volumes. When they said ki we can't make payment, I said, you have no business to say so. I mean, so that is how it started. It went on for about 1.5 years. I got it raised in Parliament through the Kanpur MP, this time Mr. Drone, BJP MP was there. He didn't tell me. So that's the interesting thing. He was also one of the CanStar unit holders, stuck into it and never told me. It is only when he got the money, when he was about, that announcement was made. See, after 2 years, he told me. He said, Virendra, I also have, you've done a great service to me also. So anyway.
No, but to put it in perspective, while you went to court on CanStar, I think, 30 years ago, so people should know that not just CanStar, mutual funds were Unit Trust of India. It was the only one. And every single government institution came up with a mutual fund and raised this kind of money. So it was Can Bank, Bank of Baroda, GIC, LIC, State Bank, all of them. And all had these assured return schemes. And everyone boasted about it. All of them were hand in glove with the brokers. You know, Scam 92 has created a lot of interest again in what happened at that time. But people don't know that all these mutual fund schemes did badly after the scam burst and, you know, the stock market collapsed. And suddenly those great assured returns which they had promised, thinking the market will go up forever, weren't there anymore. And investors would have been left in the dumps the way today's investors are on Karvy and Anugraha and everything else, but for this one man, Mr. Virendra Jain, who went to court, who not only got this order, but this order is not about CanStar. And to tell you more about it, it is that assured returns by the entire industry was stopped. The court actually took a stand that the parent company will have to pay. Would you want to say a little more about that, Mr. Jain?
It didn't come to that. We filed it. It was very interesting. This was Minda's first PIL, one. And those days, PILs were very rare. There were no PILs made, I think, in the securities market ever before that. If they were, I'm not aware of it. So that was the position. We took a chance and we filed that PIL. And you see, court took almost 1 hour to hear our counsel. My cousin, younger sister, much younger to me, Nalini. I explained it to her, collected a lot of, I did a lot of homework actually for that, because there was no information available as it is today at the click of a button, so to say. So we took all the advertisements, etc., and made a cogent, good, reasonably good case. And what came out of it, it came out, in fact, the letter we wrote to him, and then we wrote to the finance minister. It was Chidambaram there. So those were all part of the PIL, annexures part of the PIL. What they had done in essentially, we could prove we had documents to prove or data to prove that they were insider trading. They had repurchased for 2 years, about 2 years at least, and units at a price much higher than the prevalent NAV, the existing NAV, which was much more than because of the losses, the NAVs had gone down, but they kept repurchases on the assured amounts. So we said, you can't do it. It is they said, this was our commitment. I said, fine. It was your commitment. You paid. You don't do the shareholders hai, unka paisa utha ke de do. We can't do it. This is fraud. This is cheating. And we made a very strong point on that in the petition. That was one. Second was, we said they have underperformed. They've acted miserably as far as the fund management part is concerned. And we proved it. I think we gave a lot of data. Sensex was there. We compared it to Sensex. This was the Sensex at various points of time in last 6-7 years. And this is how their NAV has moved. There's a huge difference in that. And another very interesting thing was Canara Bank, Can Bank, in fact, had a lot of schemes besides CanStar launched after that. They had about 10 schemes, I think, or more than that. All the fund managed and the entire management of the Can Bank Mutual Fund was done by the officers of Canara Bank. They used it virtually as a branch of Canara Bank or a subsidiary of Canara Bank. Their officers would be sent there as MD and so on and so forth. The entire staff was from the parent sponsor, Canara Bank. And we got some document somewhere of the Can Bank Mutual Fund balance sheet. And what was surprising is, in the last year when we filed it, we were preparing this PIL. The Can Bank Mutual Fund AMC got 50 crores of fee from managing this. at that point of time. And invested a huge amount of money in that period against that. I said, they are continuing. So it was so obvious once you see that. I said, they will not discontinue because they are earning, they have earned 50 crore per annum. All their officers are there. They enjoying perks, they enjoying salaries and so on and so forth. So they have a vested interest. And ultimately, it is all Canara Bank who's the sponsor of the fund and these schemes, etc. They are responsible for that. And on that, on the first day, after about 1 hour hearing, in the PIL, the court issued they said, issue notice to Canara Bank. We had made everybody a party, AMC, trustees, etc., all of them saying that. So it was obvious, probably they will file criminal complaints against us from that. I was very disappointed, frankly. I said, we made 8 parties who are responsible for this. And on its own, after such a lengthy, it was not arguments, pleading by a counsel only. Canara Bank was not present at that point. They issued only to Canara Bank, what will happen? It was only later on I realized, after hearing everything, the court could pin it down in their mind or opinion that is the Canara Bank which is doing everything. So let's go to it. And Canara Bank did not give any answer and file any counter affidavit. It was so rattled, they came to the court, they said, we are going to pay up. No counter affidavit. They filed the counter affidavit afterward. What I understand is that Canara Bank people ran away straight to Mr. Chidambaram, who was the FM then, and very close to, obviously, the South Bank and Mr. Chidambaram. He saw the petition himself complete, and some of the chairman and ex-chairman there also. And one of the persons told me, he told them, you will all go to jail. You better pay up. So that was that, the CanStar part and how it ran.
But I remember that it didn't stop the others from fighting it. GIC also went to court, SBI went to court to try and avoid the payment. But since this was a precedent, I think the court threw them all out, right?
Yes. No scope after that. As far as the assured income schemes were concerned, I don't think, there was no argument left.
And that was sort of the end of public sector, assured returns, first of all, by SEBI. It stopped all assured return schemes. And by and large, we saw the decline of public sector mutual funds as a concept after that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Correct.
They thought it was very easy money. The market conditions were such, so they thought they can earn money like that, which is not so.
Correct. So before we go to the next big fight that you had on vanishing companies, I want to ask you, why Midas Touch? Midas Touch actually would mean how to make a lot of money, while you've named an organization of someone who's going to fight for you to get your money back. So why did you think of it? And isn't it a fact that you spent your own money and time for all of this?
First question, I started a company, Midas Touch Finance and Leasing Limited, which didn't take off. One. So when we were thinking of doing this, starting an association, I thought this is a good name, probably a catchy name. So let's do this. Take this name. Everybody keeps Investors Association and so on and so forth. I said, let's keep it. And that was that. Nothing more than that, honestly. Your next, another thing you had asked, you have asked 2 things. One was why Midas Touch.
And the fact that you spent your own money in fighting these.
Give me money. Nobody gives it to anybody. So if you have that commitment or feel so strongly about it, then I realized from day one, then you have to spend your money, your time, your resources. It can't be done other ways. You can't expect, and even I see after 30 years also, the same is the position. I didn't realize it at that point of time, but I knew that if I think that I raise money and then I go, and then I start this, then it's a non-starter. And I made few basic ground rules, seeing my limitations. Money part was, I'm not going to ask anybody because I knew nobody is going to give it. So it is for me to decide whether I want to do it, whether I'm able to do it or not. So that necessarily meant I have to work not on a shoestring budget or virtually negative. So it has to be very low cost or virtually free sort of thing, the expenses part of it. So we didn't have any lawyers. One. Secondly, I said, we do what we have. I mean, we don't try to raise resources financially or other ways. Volunteers, jitne koi milta hai, to theek hai. We never went after them also. I said, I will do with whatever I have, not what I should have. If I can do, that's fine. So that was one motto I adhered to throughout. I do it with my resources, with what I have. You try to strive. Later on, I strive to get more. Got it at sometimes also, but I never went. And I think in a way that was right, because it's if you do that, otherwise that becomes probably your focus, and the resources, energy would be spent in that only.
But
it will be success.
I remember that I pushed you very hard to get your 100 members to get accreditation from SEBI. And as ironical as it is, National Stock Exchange had helped, and we had all come to Kanpur for that big seminar. And you got your accreditation with SEBI, which was, I think, also quite useful to be able to. With that time, the regulator was more open to interacting. So I remember it was useful in some senses for you to be able to interact with SEBI at that time, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we did get a lot of things done, and it was very productive, I would say, overall. Those meetings with SEBI, and then I would give credit to D.R. Mehta for this. He would listen, firstly, give time, and whatever he may decide, and then he'd agree to a lot of things also. So he was open and frank in discussion. कि भाई ये करेंगे, ये मैं नहीं करूँगा, and so on and so forth. Later on, other chairmen have not been like that. In the investor associations meet, you'd remember, he'd sit there for a whole day. He would listen to all kinds of garbage, गालियाँ, कोई कुछ भी दे रहा है. He would not. You see, he'd listen patiently, not react to it. So that was one thing. But overall, it was good, as you said, right up to, I would say, up to Vajpayee, it was okay. But it gradually deteriorated.
Correct. So that brings me to the next big things. Since you mentioned D.R. Mehta, the whole, IPO boom or IPO mania and the collapse happened at that time. And obviously, you were angry enough to go back to court. So was it after the success, and before you say about the IPO boom, that was, I think, a huge victory on paper, right? The Allahabad High Court order is path-breaking. There was this Central Coordination Committee. There were 7 task forces. I mean, it was an unbelievable achievement. But I also feel a little disappointed that every regulator seems to have worked hard at not to make it happen. So, I would love to hear from you, the whole process of the battle and what happened afterwards.
As you are aware, Suchita, we very meticulously followed it up at all times with SEBI, MCA, even the ministers. You'd remember Pradeep Sumaya took us, we went to Yashwant Sinha, he was the FM then, to Jeth Malani, he was the law minister. and I talked to them specifically on a not one-to-one meeting, Kirit was there. About vanishing companies, which of course they were very well aware of. But nothing happened. I was surprised. I was surprised in the sense that what is the reason? I couldn't fathom even today why all of them were so resistant to change and do anything for the vanishing company. What was their vested interest? I mean, frankly, I don't know even today. But obviously, it was vested interest. Whose vested interest, to what extent, and how many people must be there? Because I asked Yashwant Sinha point blank, nobody would. I said, sir, he said, you don't have powers to do anything attachment. I told him, sir, aap inse paisa vasool kariye. The companies which have ran away, you attach their properties. He said, we don't have powers, Mr. Jain. We can't do anything. I'm talking to finance. I said in these many words. Sir, I'm talking to Finance Minister of India and talking about investors. Why can't you bring an ordinance? You bring it out for every damn thing. You bring out an ordinance, empower SEBI or the government to attach assets. He didn't say anything. Then next day we went to Jethmalani. Kirit had fixed that meeting. He was aware of this because he had come to Bombay in their seminar. I asked him, I said, he was one of the topmost lawyers, criminal lawyers of the country. I told him, I said, sir, you get this amendment made. Jaise bhi ho. It is not, I told him, sir, don't take 20 years in doing this. That is there would be no point in doing it. And he laughed. He said, mere jaise to mar bhi jayenge. I said, jokes apart, you get it. But nothing was done till date. It is amazing. I mean, I don't know. But time to time, we were following it up. And they would make all the changes, as you were saying all the time. They did not want to attach the money or the assets. And that is true even today. Now, as you have very rightly pointed out in one of the columns, where you said, why is with the power SEBI has today, they can attach, they can jail, and so on and so forth. They're not doing it today also. So, I fail to understand what is the problem.
But
what is the reason?
The High Court came to your rescue, right? There was a fantastic order from the Allahabad High Court.
Yeah, and they did not follow that order. It's simple. They simply did not follow that order at all. There are so many things. I mean, you've seen that order. That's a very good order even today, even if implemented today, because besides vanishing company, there are so many other things in that order. They have not done anything. I mean, they've just washed away the whole thing. So we're seriously thinking, considering, as we wrote to you also, that perhaps, I mean, though we don't, I mean, this is not my age or health permitting, we go back to High Court essentially on what you said. I said, now they have the powers. Because repeatedly, I was going through those papers, because after 1 year, we again went into a PIL and we said, your orders have not been implemented. That petition was pending till 2015. We filed it in 2000. So 15 में उसको dispose of किया. We did not follow it up at that point of time because not easy. I think it's high time now we make an attempt and we again go back to High Court, because though the conditions in courts are very different today, but doesn't matter. ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा क्या होगा? Dismiss कर देंगे. They will not admit it. That's all. I mean, let's put it. So we have decided, we're waiting for some time, and most likely we would file it. And again, we have a tremendous case, because as you say, they have not implemented.
I think Mr. Jain's connection has gone off. So until then, I'm going to talk a little bit about this Allahabad until he comes back on. So there were 7 task forces that were created, and it was between the Finance Ministry and the Ministry of Corporate Affairs that they were supposed to go after these companies. Like Devesh said in his introduction, as many as 70 IPOs had happened in 1 week. And it's ironical, we have a huge IPO boom again. And don't be surprised if companies may not vanish, but companies are not going to have the kind of money that, I mean, the price at which they're making their IPO. I'm sure a lot of investors are going to lose money, and these are all new investors. We just saw a press release from the National Stock Exchange yesterday to say that they've had 50 lakh new investors in the last 4 or 5 months, and it's been over 1 crore of new investors and demat accounts in the last 1.5 years. Most of them clueless. In fact, one reason why I thought that we must talk about Mr. Jain's amazing work is that it is important to know history, because those who don't know history are destined to face the consequences over and over again, and it's bound to happen. We are again in that kind of manic bull run. So before we, may I ask Arvind what is happening? Can we get Mr. Jain back on? Arvind? Sorry, the typical thing that happens in some of these, which is out of our control. So I think you slipped off. So I talked a little bit about what was happening in the Allahabad High Court. And I thought we should now move on to this investor helpline. That's another big area where, we did a lot of work. And I remember there was an accreditation for Midas Touch Investors Association with the Investor Education and Protection Fund. And this is money belonging to investors, unclaimed dividends, unclaimed deposits. And the idea was that one has to use it for public service. And you did tremendous work. I noticed at that time that you had resolved or successfully resolved over 10,578 grievances. And yet that helpline was suddenly shut down. I want to talk a little bit with you about your experience about setting up the helpline, the kind of people who came, the work that was done, and then what happened.
Let's start. Sorry. How it was, we applied to IPF, you will remember. So that was quite a task to convince IPF people. Fund that, rather MCA, I would say. And then after we did that, you see, our systems, I think, were very good, whatever we did initially. Coming of that sign, we had a good company, small, UP Tech Limited, Lucknow based. They were the ones who developed the site. Of course, we provided the total background and what was required and what we suggested that how we want to do it. They turned it technically how it is possible and what contribution they can make and advise, and they made a decently good site. And the response, you see, the amazing thing was we saw ultimately that companies were responding. When we started, everybody said, now this project is a non-starter, it is bound to fail. You can't help it. And everybody said, and we said, okay, that's it, let us give it a try. And from day one, it was my objective for that project, we will have zero tolerance for rejections, for non-resolving. Of course, unless there's something where court cases are going on and so on, which is completely beyond everybody. Otherwise, I said our target would be zero tolerance. We will not take that. So we started off from that high ambition, I would say, that was daydreaming, and almost reached that. And it was amazing. Companies were responding when they realized that these people are serious. They will, and we never threatened them. And it was, the whole process was on site. that what will be our process, the timelines, what will be our, I mean, it was 7 or 8 process step. And the last was that we'll write to SEBI and so on and so forth. And we will not go to court. We will not resort to litigation. That was very clear to the investor. We will not charge you anything. We will do this much. And if it is not resolved, even after this, we will not go to the court. So, but we had a very good experience. And I felt very sorry because we were planning, I planned to move into second phase of it to develop it further. And probably whatever plus points of positive signs or results of helpline you are saying, actually those were responsible for its closure because they were not comfortable. We were asking people, you are going under liquidation or liquidation is going on. We would write to the liquidator. I mean, side say, idhar udhar say, we were after them. I mean, we were doing our work and that's it. Within the legal framework, but asking them, they felt, now who are these people? We are not accountable to them. We don't answer to the ministry. And now they are asking, we are court-appointed liquidators. I said, fine. How much money have you paid in last 2 years? Say, Lloyd Finance, so on and so forth. They started giving responses to us and so on and so forth. I think at one point, and this is Aarti told me, sir, now they are very worried, MCA people. She is a company secretary. So feedback she got is that people are now getting, I mean, you're treading on too many toes. That sort of thing. And another positive thing which came, she would ring up, that was Aarti's domain. She was sort of the overall judge. So she knew a lot of CS and they have a lot of close fraternity type of thing. She would ring up anybody, company in Vizag, Ahmedabad, anywhere, because we had all the facilities available, of course, at IPF sponsor. And gradually the companies which were in a position to repay started paying. And then some of the secretaries said, whenever Midas helpline letter comes, we take it seriously. Earlier, हम उठा के रद्दी की टोकरी में फेंक देते थे complaints को. We won't even look at it. Then they realized these people are not going to leave you just like that. And they started responding. They started making payment. And they said after we closed it, he said, "Aapke letter dekh ke, helpline ke dekh ke to we were taking queue and we were making payments. So now since you have stopped it, now we'll go scot-free." It was unfortunate.
Isn't it such a tragedy that in India, good work is punished? So you had the Investor Education and Protection Fund Authority, which is controlled now by bureaucrats, controlled by intermediaries such as Institute of Company Secretaries and Chartered Accountants. They have not been able to replicate even 1/100th of the work that you did at Midas Touch Helpline. The other thing that we had at that time supported through IPF was Watch Out Investors. Today, Watch Out Investors is there, but it's a paid service and it's not freely accessible when with this enormous amount of money. I've just written this week that at a conservative estimate, there is 82,000 crore of unclaimed deposits, interest, dividend, which is there with various regulators. That money should be used for public good, but even an organization like Money Life Foundation does not have the wherewithal or the backing that IPF was government. And so people took it seriously. So the battle is huge. People keep writing to us and there is no second Midas Touch helpline that's available. You were the first and the last. There is no helpline. We do a little bit, but it's not the kind of systematic work that you do because we are more into, financial literacy and a whole bunch of other things. And I think, people, at least those who are here today, should spread the word at how the government works against anybody. It's bad enough that the regulators are not working for you, but when there are individuals like Viren Jain who's working, they stop it. They find a way to cut it down. And that's what happened to the Midas Touch helpline. In spite of such a brilliant job that was done, over 10,000 complaints resolved. What I marvel at, though, Mr. Jain, is doesn't seem to get you down. You still fought a battle, which was also, you know, that from word go that it was difficult for the Satyam investors. And, you know, that was a lost cause, but it created a lot of awareness that American investors who went to court got money. Indian investors who you fought for did not get money, it was thrown out. Do tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was an outright fraud. The MD himself admitted that. So there were no two issues about it. The number of investors and the money invested by them, shareholders, was huge in Satyam. So we thought, this is an apt matter which should be taken up. We were aware that class action suits and other options are available in not only in US, but other countries, Western countries or developed countries, which we didn't have. Because we knew in India there is no word as compensation. Koi rivaz nahi hai, koi convention nahi hai. Nobody listened. They think you are asking for dur if you talk about that. Said, let us make it a try. I had not even 0.1% hope or objective that we'll get some money out of it. I knew we will not get anything. I wanted that let us see what is the reply, how does the government react, how does the regulators react under the laws, and let's see what happens. It was that. I mean, so I was disappointed, of course, when National Commission refused to listen. They said, we don't have, I mean, the first sentence, Madhumita was a counsel. The first sentence, the chairman of National Council says, if we don't have the wherewithal and the infrastructure to take up such huge cases. I mean, I was flabbergasted. I mean, if something Supreme Court, anybody says like that, I mean, he's not going into anything. He's saying it's so big. But why are you sitting here? I mean, what is the objective anyway? So, same thing, Supreme Court. But it was obvious we need a law for this, and instead of crying over that we not got, har gaye, kuch nahi mila, I thought, let us capitalize on this. This is a good opportunity to ask for a change in law. We've done a lot of research before going to the court. We've given them what happens in 4 continents, various countries, the complete data. Did a seminar invited Salman Khurshid, who was MCA minister then at that point of time. And he was quite surprised to see all that. He's a senior lawyer also, not a politician only. So ultimately we were able to convince, and I think more than that, what helped was there's a lot of international pressure. Then because I got a lot of calls from UK, US, etc. mutual funds and other people and media asking, you don't have any law for compensation for damages? I said, we don't have. He said, why won't they give it? I said, we don't have a law. You see, they couldn't believe that initially. I think they took it up with the ministry also because they were also investors in India at that point of time. And their pressure was so much, I believe, that ultimately they had to make it into a law because they couldn't justify its absence. Nahi banayenge, they didn't have any answer to that. And that again went terribly against helpline. Because this came to my knowledge. One of the officials of the MCA told me there was in the MCA, not IPF, MCA meeting, there was a discussion. I don't know who said it because he didn't tell me. He said, Mr. Jain should not have gone against us, should not have initiated Satyam matter in Supreme Court. The director, he said, sir, we have sponsored. He said, sir, we have sponsored only helpline. We have not sponsored the rest of things. He's an activist. So it has nothing to do with helpline. But it didn't go well with them at all.
Correct. Are you getting the same sense now again when you're fighting Franklin Templeton? I mean, you've had a battle, you've been in the High Court, you've gone back to the Supreme Court, and at one level, isn't it a little worse where it seems almost as though SEBI using public resources is actually working against investors? I mean, I'm sure most people here have followed the Franklin case, but what is your feeling about how this battle was?
It was very well fought by the investors. Firstly, I mean, which is rare. Rarest of rare. I've not seen it, frankly, because I was closely associated, because some investors I was advising. So I was, though not officially one of the petitioners, but I was very, very closely related to it and linked with it and studying it from the very beginning. You see, it was if you ask me legally, it was atrocious. The order, the proceedings, because I saw almost the entire proceedings, which were across at least, I think, 10 working days, full 10 working days in Supreme Court, because it was on VC, and I would get the link. Madhumita would send me the link, I would see that. But you see, firstly, my first letter we wrote, I mean, 2 or 3 highlights I would say about Franklin, the legal position. They said because of pandemic, there is panic in market, we can't get money refunded by the persons or companies we have invested in, we are unable to pay, hence we are doing this. This was an absolute lie, one. SEBI knew it. 2, and thirdly, Franklin was only, the 6 schemes of Franklin only said this out of 1,200 mutual debt schemes at that point of time. So SEBI, out of 1,200 schemes, only 6 schemes are saying we can't pay because of pandemic. Now, what was SEBI doing? It's a very simple thing. They were giving them permission to raise more money, loans, what the regulations have permitted, more than 20%. So they were well aware. They were acting against the interest of investors. That's just one. So had they not allowed that you can't close it down, the law is regulations are very simple. You have to make payment within 14 days, 10 days, sorry. And that's it. Under any condition. That is one. Had SEBI put its foot down, things would have been resolved at that point. We came to court. In the Supreme Court, another thing. Madhumita, first argument, it was not, they were not impleaded because they had not gone to High Court. In the impleadment application, first thing she pleaded, because I was able to call out that they had given projections of 5 years plus for each scheme for repayment. If this proposals, Franklin's proposals was accepted by the unit holders. I said the whole proposal made by Franklin is illegal because SEBI mutual fund regulations prohibits specifically giving of assumptions and presumptions in any scheme. I said, so the whole things fall flat. The matter should have been finished within half an hour. And that's it. Putting yevo, I mean, then nothing arises. Your basic notice is illegal. You can't do that. So it is not that SEBI wouldn't know that.
Absolutely.
Manu Singhvi was just after that, his turn came. He made all those, he did not utter a word against this. Court ne bahut cheezein poochi, which she replied. And Manu Singhvi only said, it is such a matter, Your Honor, the court should not go by the letter of law strictly, and so on and so forth. So what do you say? I mean, from the day of CanStar and Vanishing Companies, the 97 till date, you are always fighting the regulator. I have yet to see an instance where regulator is siding with the investors in the court.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, we've had an hour-long discussion almost, and I'm so delighted today that there's so many activists and friends and well-wishers of yours who are here today and want to say a few things. So I think I want to bring them in so that they're able to speak to you. So I'm going to start with Andy Mukherjee, who's here. He's a well-known writer. So Andy, would you like to say something?
Mr. Jain, I mean, what can I say about you, sir? You are a living legend and a tireless crusader for investors' rights from a time when people hardly knew what that term meant. So it's really fascinating, sir, to hear from you the famous story of CanStar and other assured returns mutual funds, vanishing companies, of course, and so many other battles, including the Satyam, investors' money stuck in Satyam, and other causes that you have taken up in your long and distinguished public service career. It's also personally a joy for me, sir, to be here with you on your 75th birthday, because you are also from my hometown, Kanpur. So a very happy birthday to you, Mr. Jain, and look forward to many more such public-spirited interventions from you in the years ahead. Thank you very much for your service, Mr. Jain.
Andy, I've been reading. Oh, sorry, I'm not supposed to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
Articles, and they're fascinating, so full of information, and I'm a big fan of yours, let me tell you. And I'm really delighted, and I don't know, I mean, can't thank you enough. And a bit embarrassed, I mean, the way you're putting up my effort and so on and so on.
You're being modest as usual. I have somebody else here who I think you must listen to now, Paranjoy Guha Thakurta. We're all great.
Mr. Mukherjee was trying to say something, but I think he was on mute.
No. I was just saying that perhaps, Mr. Jain, you and I went to the same school.
Virendra Jain sir, बहुत बधाई, congratulations. I mean, it's an honor to be here with you on this virtual meeting, and very many happy returns of the day. Wish you a very long life, more strength to you. May you stay safe and carry on the good fight, the great fight that you're doing. I remember you walked up 2 floors to come to an office of mine in Nizamuddin several years ago. If I'm not mistaken, it must have been about 8 or 10 years ago. And I was hardly able to help you. I think I, at best, may have written an article or so, but I could hardly help you. I mean, you needed more support, and I regret why I was not able to help you to the extent that I should have. And just as a journalist, write more, inform more people. We journalists are always on the lookout for quote unquote exclusive, looking for information which nobody else has published. Be that as it may, I think it's very important that you groom younger generation, because people like you and your experience holds a lot of lessons for young people. I mean, life has become more complex. At certain respects, life has become simple, but also more difficult, especially the last year and a half after the pandemic. So it's very important that you, Mr. Jain, mentor as many young people as you can. And if people like me in our small way, we can support you, I'll do my little bit. So thank you once again. It's my honor and privilege to wish you on your 75th birthday. Most thanks to you. Thank you so much. Sucheta Debashish for organizing this occasion.
You want to respond, Mr. Jain?
Thank you for enjoying so much. I mean, I don't know what to say, because you all are legendary people in your field, distinguished people in the country. I mean, I feel speechless, frankly, but very happy that I've done something or trying to do something which has been good and which is appreciated. So must have done something good also.
Terrific. There's somebody else here I think you should listen to, Mr. Kaza Sudhakar, who was the Chief General Manager of the Reserve Bank of India. And while he was heading customer services, I must say we used to tell everyone that RBI is a better regulator than everybody else. And I think he's had a first-hand hearing of what happens in other areas. Kaza, would you like to say something?
No, I'm only in awe of people like Mr. Jain, who relentlessly fought on for decades altogether. See, we held jobs and we earned our salary doing a sincere job of it. It's not the same with people like Mr. Jain. They create confidence in the system, and in fact, the period that you mentioned was a period when people lost all hope. Lots of people lost their savings, and you rightly pointed out that the scenario might be replaying right now. I just pray to God, long life for Mr. Jain, and we are happy that people like you are still there in the society to sort of work for others and give confidence to others, because losing your hard-earned money is something very disastrous. And as Sucheta said that I was in the customer service department, I used to see a lot of people cheated. She also championed a whole lot of causes where, people put money in banks and in a whole lot of deals where all the money was taken away in administration charges. So I still feel that the battle is not yet won. It's an ongoing battle, and there's a long way out to reach to some sort of confidence level in the society. And thank you, Mr. Jain. I don't want to take much of your time, everybody's time. Thanks a lot for being there for all of us. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Kaza. Do you want to say something, Mr. Jain?
Thank you, Mr. Kazan, very, very much.
Okay. Madhumita has fought a battle with you. I'm going to ask her to say a few things.
Firstly, wish you a very happy birthday, Jain sir. And to both of you, I really wish to congratulate for the long battle and the yeoman service that you have done. And for Mr. Jain, I hold him in great reverence, because when first time I interacted with him, first time in Common Cause, and then in Satyam, he reposed his faith on a very young lawyer, and he was very confident that I would be able to handle this. And this has been a path-breaking thing for me that gave me that confidence. And today, whatever little bit I have achieved, greatly it belongs to him for reposing his faith on me time and again, that I'll be able to make that difference. So wish you a very happy birthday, and please take care. Well, we have another long battle to win now. So thank you very much.
Great. So Madhumita is ensuring that you don't decide to celebrate today and hang up your shoes and say no more fighting. So we absolutely need you here. One more person who's been watching close up is R. Balakrishnan. He's been in various organizations, CRISIL, in research, he's mutual funds. He's seen the good, the bad, the ugly of markets. Bala, would you like to say something?
Well, it is a humbling experience to meet somebody meet online first time, Mr. Jain. I think, first of all, happy birthday. I think Sucheta and we always discuss so many things, right, wrongs, and we've been talking about the failure of the regulator across financial markets. And I think people like you inspire us to keep fighting in our own small way. I think you inspire a lot of us, and I would definitely look forward to the next quarter century of yours with a lot of interest and as much participation as possible, sir. Thank you. God bless.
Would you like to respond?
Mala, I have been watching and known something about you through Money Life program. And you see, and coming from you, I mean, you're so experienced, who's done such a lot of work in the financial sector. is something great and very humbling. I'd say all of you.
Thank you. Your voice faded. Sorry. I think Mr. Abhay Datar next, and then we're going to let Mr. Jain say a few words and then bring this event to a close. Mr. Datar, would you like to say something? Arvind?
Datar sir, I've asked you to, I've asked him to unmute, but I don't think he's done that. I'm not sure if he's able to do that. Datar sir, can you hear me?
I just saw a comment posted by him. Does anyone else want to say anything? Because then I'm going to ask Mr. Jain too. Mr. Subhash Agarwal, again, a very, very well-known activist, needs no introduction to an activist group. Subhash ji, would you like to say something? Arvind, you're on.
Sir, you'll have to unmute for. Yeah, I've unmuted him. I don't think he's pressed unmute. Yeah, he's unmuted.
जैन साहब को बहुत बहुत मुबारक उनका 75वां जन्मदिन और मनी लाइफ फाउंडेशन की मार्फत मैं तो पहली बार इस तरीके के लोगों से मिल रहा हूँ और मैं मनी लाइफ फाउंडेशन से भी ये बड़ा उनका आभार है कि वो ऐसे लोगों को एनकरेज करते हैं और एक्टिविस्ट लोगों को एनकरेज करते हैं कि वो जैन साहब जैसे रोल मॉडल को अपनाएं और समाज के लिए अच्छा काम करें। धन्यवाद।
Thank you so much, Subhash ji. Viren ji, would you like to say a few words? I know I asked you a lot of questions. I'm sure there are other things that you want to say. Can we have you say a few words before we bring this lovely evening to a close?
Thank Subhash ji. He's a legend, RTI activist. He's done great work in RTI. I've been seeing his the orders he could procure. I mean, they are landmark, remarkable, and he's done great work. And we are very proud of you, Subhash ji.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Anything else that you want to say to all of us? Maybe that we should join more in your battles so that you don't have to fight alone.
You see, I mean, I think we don't have the time now. But one thing I would like to say from my experience, investors have a lot of problems. They have faced a lot of problems of all sorts in the securities market and even otherwise also in other spheres also. And unless we tackle the basic problems, these problems are manifestation of those basic issues. I'll say 2-3 points only in bullet form because they are big issues for discussion. One is that in the securities market, investors are likely to be victims of a system. Again and again, because that is flawed. One, in law, such as in SEBI Act, they have no rights to file suits against SEBI. They can't go to a district court. They can file an appeal in SAT against a SEBI order, which is located only at Bombay in this huge country, which in itself is very wrong. And these SAT orders are appealable in Supreme Court. So in effect, what we've done in securities market, by and large, barred the entry or debarred investors from taking judicial recourse at all. No, this is something that I find it revolting. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but as a citizen, I find this revolting. And this stays here. This has been from the beginning. This is not only in the Securities Act only. It is in probably in most of the acts in the finance one. So another thing, and this is another huge thing, is there is no accountability of any regulator or any official, any babu, or even monthly. in our constitution with the investors, with the citizens. Now we are running a colonial system type government. We are saying this is a democracy, but even if we see UK, US, etc., even in UK, those are very, very different structures. I'll lay the processes. I'll say one thing, two things only. One is the implementation part. Whenever a new act is made, passed by the parliament, what we do is a very bad habit, which we have inherited, I think, from Britishers, but they were here to rule India, not to govern it properly in the interest of its citizens. The law is made and they don't make any provision of how it would be implemented. There's absolutely no provision in other how will they implement, what would be the requirements, what would be the budget. We don't do it. The problems होती रहेंगी सब जगह. That is one. Secondly, the working of parliament is flawed in one sense. Suchita knows it very well, more than me. You see, parliamentarians are accountable to their electorate, and government is accountable to the parliament. What happens in parliament and parliamentary committees? I'll take parliamentary committees first. And there, the minister is not present, is not obliged or not required to be present when the hearings are going on. Essentially, what it has meant is, it is only the bureaucracy which is made accountable or answerable even to the parliamentary committees. I mean, I fail to understand. If it is an issue of finance, the finance minister ought to be replying to that, satisfying the committee and the house, both the houses. So there's a huge gap. I mean, so they have very cleverly, I would say, continued with this practice which was there in the Britishers' time, which is okay, and continues after 70 years also. I mean, so you need changes in the working, and it is there in other democratic countries. We don't, and similarly, we don't have anything about implementation of the law. There should be a ministry for implementation, and so on and so forth. The accountability is very closely related to that. And that is why nobody wants to, neither the legislature perhaps, and the bureaucracy, to do that. So I think what we need is a holistic issue of the entire thing. Individual problems would remain. They are just manifestations of a bigger problem, structural problems also. And unless those are changed or amended, this would keep on happening. Money life of people like me, I mean, they will make a lifelong effort and make a dent somewhere in a sea of misery floating on around.
Thank you so much for this. I agree with you entirely, but let's not end on a very pessimistic note. I think we need to, the reason why we have you here and we want you to speak is so that people understand the challenges. And when they understand the challenges, they would probably be more supportive, may understand the need to put up the kind of fight that you have. Hopefully you would have inspired a few others to go to court and take a chance, study any issue that they feel strongly about, because you never know, there may be a tremendous victory at the end of it. like you did with CanStar. There could be something path-breaking. And I hope really your conversation today has inspired at least one or two people to take the battle forward and to fight for things and to fight for a more accountable system. I also want to close by telling people that we wanted this to be a surprise. We did it in 3 days. Then we got cold feet in the end. We said too much of a surprise may boomerang on us. And so we plotted this with Madhumita and Mr. Jain's daughter. And thank you so much. It's been a wonderful evening and more power to you. God bless you. And we need more people like you. Thank you so much, Mr. Jain.
Thank you. Thank you.